The silence at an airport gate after the final boarding call is the loudest sound in the world. It is a heavy, suffocating kind of silence that presses against your eardrums and makes the blood rushing through your veins sound like a roaring river. I was standing there at Gate B12, clutching a carry-on bag that suddenly felt like it contained rocks instead of my swimsuit and summer dresses. The LED screen above the desk had already switched from boarding to that dreaded blinking text that said, "Gate closed." I was not supposed to be standing on the wrong side of the glass. I was supposed to be in seat 4A, sipping a pre-flight orange juice and getting ready for 2 weeks of tropical sun with my family. But instead I was staring at the empty jet bridge door, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. A woman in a navy blue airline uniform was typing furiously at the computer behind the podium. She kept glancing up at me, then back at her screen, and then up at me again. Her expression was not one of annoyance, which is what you usually expect from airline workers dealing with late passengers. It was something far worse. It was pity. She looked at me the way you look at a stray dog shivering in the rain. She bit her lip, stopped typing, and walked around the desk to stand directly in front of me. She lowered her voice, leaning in close so the other passengers waiting for the next flight nearby would not hear. "Ma'am," she whispered, her voice trembling just a little. "They told us to leave you here." I blinked, trying to process the words. It felt like she was speaking a foreign language. "Excuse me." I managed to choke out, my voice cracking. "Who told you?" "My husband. My daughter. There must be a mistake. They probably think I am already on the plane. I just went to the restroom for 2 minutes." The worker shook her head slowly, and that was when the ice water sensation started spreading through my chest. "No, ma'am. The young woman, your daughter." She scanned her pass and then handed us another one. She said, "My mother isn't coming. She decided to stay behind last minute, so I'll be taking her seat upgrade. We asked if we should page you and your husband said, 'No, don't bother her, she's already left the terminal.'" I felt the color drain from my face. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I grabbed the edge of the podium to steady myself. They had not just left me, they had erased me. My daughter, Chloe, had taken my first-class ticket, the one I had treated myself to as a rare luxury, and purposely told the gate agents I was gone so she could steal my seat. She had planned this. She waited until I went to the restroom to fill my water bottle, a task she had suggested I do because hydration is important, Mom. It wasn't concern for my health. It was a tactic to get me away from the gate just as Zone 1 boarding began. I stood there paralyzed. The sheer cruelty of it was almost impossible to comprehend. We're talking about my family. My husband, David, who I have been married to for 25 years, and my 19-year-old daughter, Chloe. We were going on a dream vacation to Hawaii. A vacation that I had spent months planning. I could vividly picture Chloe sitting in my seat right now, probably stretching out her legs and snapping a selfie for her Instagram story, laughing about how she finessed an upgrade. Hey, really quickly before I tell you what happened next, I want to know who is listening to this right now. Pause the video for a second and drop a comment with the city you are watching from and the current time on your clock. I always love seeing how far these stories travel. Okay, done. Let's get back to the mess. So, I am standing there and the reality is sinking in. The plane is still sitting on the tarmac. I can see the nose of the aircraft through the giant windows. My family is on that metal tube less than 100 yards away and they are completely fine with the fact that I am not with them. They didn't call my phone. They didn't text. They just boarded, lied to the staff and stole my seat. Is there any way I can get on? I asked the agent, though I already knew the answer. Desperation makes you ask stupid questions. "I am so sorry, Evelyn," she said, reading my name off the manifest she was holding. "The door is closed. The pilot has already received the final weight and balance paperwork. Once that door shuts, we cannot reopen it for anyone. It is federal regulation." I nodded numbly. I did not scream. I did not make a scene. I think I was in too much shock to be angry yet. That is the thing about deep betrayal. It does not burn at first. It freezes you. I watched as the tug vehicle began to push the plane back from the gate. I watched my family leave me behind in New Jersey while they headed for paradise. The agent touched my arm gently. "Do you want me to look for the next flight out? I can try to get you a seat on the evening connection, but it is going to be a layover in Los Angeles, and it is fully booked in economy." I looked at the plane taxiing away, a silver glimmer in the morning sun. I imagined David putting on his noise-canceling headphones, relieved to not have to listen to me talk about the itinerary. I imagined Chloe sipping champagne that she is technically too young for, basking in the luxury she felt entitled to. They thought this was it. They thought I would frantically book the next flight, arrive late and exhausted, and just accept their excuse. They would probably say it was a misunderstanding, or that they thought I wanted to stay home. They were banking on me being the pushover I have always been. No, I said, my voice suddenly steady. The trembling in my hands stopped. A strange, cold clarity washed over me. I don't want you to book me another flight. The agent looked confused. You don't? But your luggage is on that plane. Your family is on that plane. Yes, they are, I said, a small, dark smile touching my lips. And do you know how they paid for those tickets? Do you know whose credit card is on file for the hotel, the excursions, the rental car, and that first-class seat my daughter is currently sitting in? The agent's eyes widened as she realized where this was going. He checked her screen. It says here, the payment method for the entire party is a platinum rewards card under the name Evelyn Miller. That's me, I said. They forgot one very important thing. They didn't just leave their mother and wife behind. They left the wallet behind. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. The screen was full of notifications, boarding alerts I had missed, a generic, have a nice flight email from the airline. Nothing from Chloe. Nothing from David. I need to make some phone calls, I told the agent. But not to book a flight. I'm going to go find a seat at the bar, order a very expensive glass of wine, and cancel absolutely everything before their wheels even touch the ground. The agent looked at me for a long moment and then a grin spread across her face. It was a conspiratorial, delightful grin. Ma'am, she said, there is a lounge right around the corner. If you show them your platinum card, you get in for free. The Wi-Fi is faster there. Good luck. I turned my back on Gate B12. I didn't look at the plane taking off. I walked away from the window with my head held high, the sound of my heels clicking sharply against the linoleum floor. They wanted a vacation without me? Fine. I was about to ensure they got exactly what they paid for, which without me was absolutely nothing. I walked into the lounge the airline agent had told me about, and the atmosphere was immediately different from the chaotic terminal outside. It was quiet, smelling of fresh coffee and expensive perfume. I found a secluded corner table near a window, dropped my carry-on bag to the floor, and sank into a leather armchair that cost more than my first car. A waiter appeared almost instantly and I ordered a Pinot Noir. It was barely 11 a.m., but considering I had just been orphaned by my own husband and daughter, I figured the usual rules of society no longer applied to me. As I waited for the wine, I unlocked my phone and opened the banking app. I needed to see the damage before I started the demolition. There it was, right at the top of the pending transactions list. The charge for the Uber to the airport, the breakfast we had grabbed at the terminal, and the massive hold for the resort in Maui. Looking at those numbers didn't just hurt my wallet. It broke my heart because every single dollar represented a sacrifice I had made to try and fix us. You have to understand, this trip was not just a vacation. It was a Hail Mary pass. It was my last-ditch effort to save a family that had been crumbling in slow motion for years. 6 months ago I realized I was living with ghosts. David and I would sit at the dinner table in complete silence, the only sound being the scraping of forks against plates. He would stare at the news on his phone, and if I asked him how his day was, he would give me a grunt or a one-word answer. Chloe was even worse. She is 19, taking a gap year that was supposed to be for finding herself, but mostly involved finding my credit card and finding new ways to roll her eyes at me. She treated our home like a hotel and me like the maid who was annoying her by existing. I thought if I could just get them away from their routines, away from the Wi-Fi and the distractions, maybe we could remember why we loved each other. I wanted to recreate the magic of the trips we took when Chloe was little, back when David used to hold my hand and Chloe used to run into my arms when she saw the ocean. So I worked myself into the ground. I am a senior project manager at a logistics firm, and for the last half year, I took on every nightmare client and every overtime shift available. I missed lunches. I stayed up until 2 a.m. finishing reports. I skipped my own annual checkups to save leave days. I did all of this to accumulate the bonus check that would pay for 2 weeks in paradise. I wanted everything to be perfect, so I didn't skimp on anything. I remember the night I told them about the trip. I had prepared a whole presentation with pictures of the resort. I laid it out on the coffee table, brochures for snorkeling, the luau, the volcano tours. Hawaii. Chloe had said, barely looking up from her texting. Which island? Because if it's not Maui or Kauai, it's basically just a tourist trap. It is Maui, I said, beaming, trying to ignore her tone. And I booked the oceanfront suites at the resort you showed me on TikTok. That got her attention for about 5 seconds. Cool, she said. I need new bikinis. I can't wear last year's stuff if we are staying there. David was no better. That's a long flight, Evelyn, he complained, rubbing his neck. You know my back acts up on planes. Did you get extra legroom? I had swallowed my disappointment then, just like I swallowed it today at the gate. Yes, David. I got economy plus for you and Chloe. And I had paused, feeling a little guilty but also proud. I booked one first-class seat for myself. Since I'm doing all the planning and paying, I thought I'd treat myself to a lie-flat bed. That was the moment the seed of resentment was planted. I saw the look Chloe exchanged with her father. It was a look of pure entitlement. Why do you get the first-class seat? Chloe had whined. I'm taller than you. I need the legroom more. Because I am paying for it, Chloe, I had said, trying to be firm. And because I have worked 60-hour weeks for 6 months to make this happen. They had dropped it then, or so I thought. But looking back, I realized they hadn't dropped it at all. They had just started plotting. They spent the next few months letting me run around like their personal travel agent. I booked the rental car, a convertible Mustang, because David mentioned he wanted to drive one. I booked the impossible-to-get dinner reservations at Mama's Fish House because Chloe saw an influencer eat there. I bought the sunscreen, the adapters, the neck pillows. I packed their suitcases because they were too busy. I did everything. I built the entire stage for them to shine on, and they thanked me by shoving me off the platform the moment the curtain went up. The waiter placed the glass of wine in front of me. I took a long sip. The rich, dark liquid warmed my chest, but it couldn't melt the icy realization sitting in my gut. They didn't just leave me at the airport because they were forgetful. They left me because they genuinely believed they didn't need me. To them, I was just the walking ATM. I was the logistics coordinator. Once the tickets were printed and the bags were checked, my utility was exhausted. They probably thought that since the trip was already paid for, my presence was optional. They figured I would just go home, cry a little, and let them enjoy the fruits of my labor because I had never stood up to them before. I looked at the platinum card sitting on the table next to my wine glass. It glimmered under the lounge lights. It was the key to their entire vacation. The hotel required it for check-in incidentals. The rental car agency needed the physical card to release the Mustang. The excursion companies had it on file, but for high-ticket items, they often asked for ID verification upon arrival. My family was currently flying over the Pacific Ocean, eating warm nuts and watching movies, completely unaware that the foundation of their luxury trip was sitting in a lounge in New Jersey, getting ready to pull the plug. They wanted to live the high life without the person who funded it. Fine. But they were about to learn a very expensive lesson in finance. When you cut off the investor, the project gets shut down. I pulled out my notebook, the one I used to plan their perfect vacation, and flipped to the page with the itinerary. It had every confirmation number, every phone number, and every manager's name I had spoken to. It was a roadmap of my love for them. Now it was a hit list. Staring at my phone in that quiet, dim lounge, my mind started rewinding the tape of this morning. I needed to understand how I missed the signs. You don't just wake up one day and decide to abandon your mother at Gate B12. This was premeditated. It was a cold, calculated extraction, and as I replayed the last 6 hours, the red flags were waving so violently I felt stupid for not seeing them earlier. It started in the car at 4:30 a.m. Usually, the drive to the airport for a family vacation is buzzing with that tired but excited energy. You know, checking if everyone packed their toothbrushes, arguing about who gets the AUX cord, speculating about the weather. But our car was silent as a tomb. David was driving, his knuckles white on the steering wheel of our SUV. I tried to break the ice. I remember reaching over to squeeze his knee and saying, "Can you believe we're finally doing this? 2 weeks, no work, just us." He didn't even look at me. He just brushed my hand off his leg like I was a fly and grumbled, "Evelyn, I'm trying to focus on the road. It's raining. Don't distract me." It was barely drizzling. In the back seat, Chloe was wearing those massive noise-canceling headphones, the ones I bought her for Christmas last year. She had her hood up and her sunglasses on, even though it was pitch black outside. I tried to ask her if she had downloaded enough movies for the flight. She didn't answer. She just tapped on her phone, the light from the screen illuminating a bored, annoyed scowl. I told myself they were just not morning people. I told myself I was being too eager, too mommish, and that they would warm up once we got through security. When we got to the curbside drop-off, the tension ratcheted up another notch. I was the one hauling the heavy suitcases out of the trunk while David stood by the driver's door, checking his watch. "Hurry up, Evelyn," he snapped. "We're going to hit the morning rush at security. Why did you pack so much stuff anyway?" "It's for all of us, David," I had said, struggling with the oversized bag that contained his snorkeling gear and Chloe's 5 pairs of shoes. "I packed your wetsuit and your flippers." He didn't say thank you. He just grabbed his carry-on and started walking toward the sliding doors without waiting for me. Chloe followed him, trailing behind like a shadow, leaving me to drag the 2 largest bags to the check-in counter alone. I should have turned around right then. I should have put the bags back in the car and driven home. But I didn't. I was so desperate for this fantasy of a happy family that I was willing to play the role of the pack mule to keep the peace. The real setup happened once we were past security. We had about 40 minutes before boarding. We found seats near the gate but not together because Chloe put her bag on the empty seat next to her so I couldn't sit there. I sat across from them. That was when the whispering started. I saw Chloe lean over to David. She pulled one ear cup of her headphones back and murmured something. David looked at me, then back at her, and gave a barely perceptible nod. At the time, I thought they were maybe discussing breakfast or wondering if the flight was on time. Now, I know they were running through the game plan. "Mom," Chloe said suddenly, her voice cutting through the gate noise. It was the first time she had acknowledged my existence all morning. "You look really pale." I blinked, surprised. "I do." "Yeah," she said, feigning concern with an Oscar-worthy performance. "You look super dehydrated. Your lips are chapped. You really should go fill up your water bottle before we get on the plane. You know how dry the cabin air is. I don't want you getting a migraine and ruining the first day." I remember feeling a bloom of warmth in my chest. He cares, I thought. He's actually looking out for me. "That's a good idea," I said, digging my reusable bottle out of my bag. "I'll go find a fountain." "Here," David said, extending his hand. "Give me your boarding pass and your ID. You don't want to leave them on the seat or drop them in the bathroom. I'll hold them with ours." It made perfect sense. Logistical sense. Secure sense. I handed him my boarding pass, the one printed with "first class," and my driver's license. I trusted him with my life. Why wouldn't I trust him with a piece of paper? "Thanks, honey," I said. "I'll be right back." I walked away toward the restrooms, which were suspiciously far from our gate. I remember looking back once. David and Chloe were watching me walk away. They weren't looking at their phones. They were watching me with a focused intensity, like predators watching prey separate from the herd. As soon as I turned the corner, they must have sprinted to the desk. That moment haunts me the most. The image of them watching me leave. They knew I wasn't coming back to a seat. They knew that the moment I handed over that boarding pass, I was done. Chloe wanted that first-class seat so badly that she manipulated her father into stranding his wife. And David? He was so beaten down by his daughter's demands, or perhaps just so indifferent to my presence, that he went along with it. The upgrade wasn't just about legroom. It was about status. Chloe felt she deserved the best, and I was just the obstacle in the way of her comfort. They had probably laughed about it the second I was out of earshot. Sitting in the lounge, remembering David's hand closing over my ticket, I felt a tear slide down my cheek. I wiped it away angrily. That was the last tear they were going to get from me. The sadness evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I looked at the list of numbers in my notebook. They thought they had pulled off the perfect heist. They had the tickets, they had the destination, and they had the freedom. But they had forgotten that I was the one who held the strings to the safety net. I picked up my phone and dialed the first number. It was time to cut the strings. The first number I dialed was the hotel in Maui. It was a 5-star resort in Wailea, the kind where they greet you with leis made of real orchids and the air smells like expensive coconut oil. I had spent 3 weeks emailing the concierge to secure a specific ocean view suite, the one with the wraparound balcony that Chloe had demanded. "Aloha reservations," a cheerful voice chirped on the other end. "Aloha," I said, my voice steady and professional. "My name is Evelyn Miller." I have a reservation checking in later today under the confirmation code HC5592. One moment, Mrs. Miller. Ah yes. The Grand Ocean Suite. We have everything ready for your arrival this evening. Is there something I can help you with? Actually, yes, I said, taking a sip of my wine. I need to cancel the reservation. There was a pause on the line. I'm sorry? You want to cancel? You are due to arrive in about 8 hours. Correct. Something has come up and I will not be arriving. My family, however, is currently on a flight to you. They are unaware that I am canceling. I need to ensure that when they arrive at the front desk, the reservation is completely voided and the credit card on file, my card, is removed from the system. Mrs. Miller, the agent said, sounding concerned. Because this is a last-minute cancellation, I have to inform you that the full deposit is non-refundable. You will lose the entire cost of the stay. I didn't even flinch. The money was already gone in my mind. It was the price of freedom. I am aware of the policy. I don't care about the refund. I care about the cancellation. I want to make sure that under no circumstances are David or Chloe Miller allowed to check into that room using my card. In fact, if they try to use my card for anything on the property, I want it flagged as unauthorized. I understand, the agent said, typing furiously. I have canceled the booking. I've also put a note on the profile. If they arrive, we will inform them there is no reservation and no payment method on file. Perfect. Thank you. I hung up and felt a surge of adrenaline. One down. Next was the rental car. I called the agency. Hi, this is Evelyn Miller. I booked a convertible Mustang for pickup at Kahului Airport tonight. Cancel it. Ma'am, there's a cancellation fee of. Charge it. Just kill the reservation. Done. Next, the excursions. This was the part that really stung because I had been looking forward to the sunset catamaran cruise. But scorching the earth means burning the crops you wanted to eat too. I called the tour company. I called the helicopter tour operator. I called the luau organizers. I went down the list like a reaper swinging a scythe. Within 20 minutes, I had systematically dismantled their entire vacation. They were currently flying toward a paradise that had locked its gates to them. They were landing in one of the most expensive tourist destinations in the world with no car, no hotel, no activities, and, most importantly, no way to pay for any of it. David carries a debit card that he barely keeps $500 on for emergency cash. And Chloe has a supplementary credit card attached to my account. That was the final step. I opened my banking app again. I went to card management. I found the entry for Chloe student card. I hovered my thumb over the lock card button. I thought about the time she threw a tantrum because I bought her the wrong color iPhone. I thought about the smirk on her face when she told me to go fill my water bottle. I pressed lock. Then I did the same for the card David had in his wallet, which was also a joint account linked to my primary line of credit. Lock. I sat back in the leather chair and exhaled. It was done. They were completely demonetized. When they landed in Maui, they would be stranded at the airport with their luggage and their audacity. Just as I was finishing my wine, my phone buzzed. It wasn't them, they were still in the air. It was a notification from the airline app. Flight UA 455 has landed in Kahului. My heart skipped a beat. I checked the time. Wait, that wasn't right. The flight was 10 hours. It had only been. I looked at the clock. It had been 5 hours. Why had they landed? I tapped the notification. Flight diverted to Los Angeles, LAX, due to medical emergency on board. I frowned. A diversion? That meant they were on the ground in LA halfway to Hawaii. They would have cell service. Almost instantly my phone lit up. It was David. Then a text from Chloe. Then David again. David, 3 missed calls. Chloe, where are you? Chloe, why is my card declining? I tried to buy a smoothie at LAX and it said blocked. David, Evelyn, pick up the phone. This isn't funny. I stared at the screen, a savage satisfaction curling in my gut. They weren't even in Hawaii yet. They were stuck in LAX, probably trying to rebook or grab food during the diversion, and realized the money tap had run dry. I let it ring. I watched the screen flash hubby over and over again. I took a slow, deliberate breath. I wasn't going to answer yet. Let them sweat. Let them stand at the counter of a Jamba Juice in Terminal 4 and realize that the Bank of Mom is closed for business. I ordered another glass of wine and opened my Kindle app. I had a lot of reading to catch up on. About 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. This time I decided to answer. "Hello," I said, my voice light and breezy. "Evelyn." David's voice was a mix of panic and fury. "What the hell is going on?" "We're in LA. Someone had a heart attack on the plane, so we had to land. I tried to buy lunch and the card was rejected. Chloe's card isn't working either. And I just got an email from the hotel saying our reservation is canceled. What did you do?" "Oh, hi David," I said calmly. "I'm surprised you have time to call. Aren't you busy enjoying your extra legroom?" "Stop it, Evelyn. This is serious. We are stranded in Los Angeles with no money access. Fix the cards right now." "I can't do that, David," I said. "You see, those cards are for family expenses. And since you two decided I wasn't part of the family vacation, I figured I wasn't part of the family funding either. I canceled everything. The hotel, the car, the tours. All of it." You what?" His voice dropped to a whisper of pure shock. "You can't do that. We're halfway there." "Actually, I can," I said. "It's my money. My cards. My planning. You stole my ticket, David. You left me at the gate like a piece of luggage you didn't want to pay the fee for. Did you really think I was just going to sit home and pay the bills while you two lived it up?" "Mom." Chloe's voice screeched in the background. She must have grabbed the phone. "You are ruining my life. I have to post from the resort. Everyone knows I'm going. Fix it. You are being so selfish." "Selfish?" I laughed, and it was a cold, hard sound. "Chloe, you stole a first-class seat from your mother. You manipulated your father into abandoning his wife. You are an adult, right? You wanted to travel like a grown-up? Well, welcome to adulthood. Grown-ups pay their own way. Good luck getting to Hawaii on $0. "Evelyn, please," David pleaded, taking the phone back. "We have no way to get home. We have no way to get to Maui. We're stuck." "You have return tickets, don't you?" I asked. "Oh wait, those are for 2 weeks from now. And changing them costs money. Money you don't have." "What do you expect us to do?" he shouted. "I don't know, David," I said, signaling the waiter for the check. "Maybe you can ask the airline if they need volunteers to be bumped. Or maybe Chloe can use her influencer skills to get a sponsorship. Figure it out. I'm going home to enjoy a very quiet, very cheap 2 weeks. Do not call me again unless it's an apology. A real one." I hung up. Then I turned my phone off completely. The Uber ride back to my house was the most peaceful 40 minutes of my life. The driver, a nice older man named Stan, asked me why I was coming back from the airport so soon without any luggage. I told him, "I forgot the most important thing, Stan. My self-respect." He laughed, thinking I was joking, but I had never been more serious. When I unlocked my front door, the silence that greeted me wasn't the lonely, suffocating silence of the airport gate. It was the rich, luxurious silence of freedom. I kicked off my heels in the hallway, ordered a large pepperoni pizza with extra cheese, something David never let us order because of his cholesterol, and poured myself a second glass of wine. I didn't turn my phone back on for 3 hours. I wanted to give them time to really marinate in the consequences of their actions. I imagined them sitting on the hard, gray carpet of the LAX terminal, watching the departure boards flicking through flights they couldn't afford to be on. When I finally powered up my phone around 8 p.m., it nearly vibrated off the coffee table. The flood of notifications was frantic. There were 27 missed calls from David, 12 from Chloe, and a handful of texts that ranged from begging to bargaining to blaming. "Chloe, Mom, I'm sorry about the seat. Seriously. Just unlock the card so we can get a hotel room. It's gross here. David, Evelyn, this is insanity. We are sleeping on the floor near Gate 74. People are staring at us. Be reasonable. Chloe, my phone battery is dying and I can't buy a charger. Please." I read them while chewing a slice of pizza, feeling a level of detachment that surprised me. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel the urge to rush in and save them like I had done for the last 20 years. Remember that hydration Chloe was so worried about? Well, I was hydrating just fine with my Pinot Noir, while she was probably thirsty and stuck with a dead phone. I decided to send one final text to the group chat. "Me, I am being reasonable. I'm saving us money. Since the vacation is cancelled, you don't need a hotel. You have return tickets for 2 weeks from now. You can try to fly standby to get home earlier, but I won't be paying the change fees. Figure it out. I'm taking a nap. The next 2 weeks were the best vacation I have ever had. I didn't go to Hawaii. I didn't see a volcano or a luau. Instead, I slept in the middle of the bed. I watched reality TV shows that David hates. I went to the spa down the street and spent a fraction of what that plane ticket cost on a deep tissue massage. I realized that the stress I had been carrying wasn't from work. It was from them. It was from the constant effort of trying to please people who saw me as a utility rather than a person. They did eventually make it home, but not for 3 days. They had to call David's parents, my in-laws who are notoriously stingy, to wire them money for economy tickets back to New Jersey. They landed at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, exhausted, disheveled, and furious. I was waiting for them in the living room, fully dressed, sitting in the armchair with the lights on. When David walked in, dragging the suitcases I had packed for him, he looked 10 years older. Chloe looked like she had been crying for 48 hours straight. You, David started, pointing a shaking finger at me. You are a psychopath. Do you have any idea what you put us through? I put you through exactly what you designed for me, I said calmly. You wanted to travel without me. I just facilitated it. I'm moving out, Chloe announced, storming toward the stairs. I can't live with someone who would do this to her own daughter. That's great news, Chloe, I called after her. Because I've already converted your bedroom into my new home office. Your boxes are in the garage. She froze on the 3rd step. The silence in the house was deafening. David dropped his bags and stared at me. What are you talking about? Evelyn, stop this. We're home now. Let's just go to bed and talk about this in the morning. No, David, I said, standing up. There is no we anymore. That woman you left at the gate? She didn't come back. I spent the last 3 days looking at our finances. I realized that without you two draining my account, I can retire 5 years early. I can travel where I want, sit in whatever seat I pay for, and never have to beg for a thank you again. I walked over to the table where I had laid out a folder. These are separation papers, I said. I had my lawyer draw them up yesterday. It turns out abandonment is a pretty strong ground for divorce, especially when there are witnesses at an airline counter. The color drained from his face, matching the pale gray of his travel-worn shirt. He looked at the papers, then at me, realizing for the first time that the ATM had permanently shut down. You can't be serious, he whispered. Over a plane seat? It was never about the seat, David, I said, walking toward the front door. It was about the disrespect. It was about the fact that you were willing to leave me behind. So now I'm returning the favor. I'm going to stay at a hotel for a few days while you figure out your living arrangements. And don't worry, I paused, smiling that same dark, satisfied smile I had at the airport. I took my name off the utility bills this morning. So I'd keep the lights off if I were you. I walked out into the cool night air, got into my car and drove away. I didn't look back at the house. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being left behind. I was the one moving forward. That is the end of the story, guys. It's wild how one moment at an airport can change your entire life, isn't it? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Did Evelyn go too far, or did they get exactly what they deserved? If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more family drama and revenge tales, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. See you in the next one.